So, just a small recap of less than 24 hours. Wagner goes rogue. They take around 25K men, allegedly, and march to Moscow. They're uninterrupted. All roads are open to them. Zero standoffs that we know of or have pictures. No destroyed vehicles. The destroyed heli, I think, was proven wrong. The Ka-52. Chechens go into Rostov. It's labeled counter intel by everyone, so countering the rebels. Deal is agreed upon not by Putin but by the Belarusian president. Always forget his name. The deal is made in less than 8 hours. Putin approves the deal in less than 8 hours. Somehow Prigozhin and the Belarusian president are best friends, and they got into terms pretty quickly. Wagner goes back to fight, according to latest Prigozhin statement. Putin will restructure the MOD probably as one of the follow-ups. They can fire everyone he wants. He doesn't need an explanation anymore because someone did a coup. The Belarus now has a firm, powerful ally from Russian because they negotiated with the Wagner rebels, quote unquote, and the Chechens are repositioned to Rostov, and Wagner, with all their might, can just reposition somewhere in the Belgorod region without telling the West, "Hey, we're moving," because from what I've seen and what I have known from a couple of colonels, the West does keep tracks and does have uh, pretty powerful intel from satellite intel and images that they just give to the Ukrainians, like target packages, and they scan them and say, "Hey, this is the target packages. They will be here and this time, this time, this time. See if you have any ammunition in range, and then struck them." So one way to avoid that and confuse the Ukrainians and the West and their analysis is just, hey, there's a coup. The troops are moving to Moscow. Uh, no one knows what's happening really. And then mysteriously, Wagner always leaves men behind on the way to Moscow to secure the roads. But no one knows then what happens to those men. They can just redeploy back to the front quicker and make less of noise that way. And it's harder to track. So that's pretty much what I think as well that happened. Uh, Putin just consolidating more power and
Hey,
moving
may I
forces.
say may I say what I think
Yeah.
happened? Okay. Okay. So I think this started in like what 11 like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Moscow time, and first off, at first it was not clear to me. But what I think is that a few thousand Wagner troops came from Ukraine and enter from the Ukraine like war zone and enter Rostov, and from there like they basically got ready and stuff. They captured the southern military district headquarters, and then after that they started going up the highway towards Moscow. And when they were like going through the highway, I think they were negotiating, because the negotiation needs to take place at some time. So I think that the negotiation took place while they were like on the highway going towards Moscow. And I bel and then like the terms were agreed upon by Prigozhin and the Russian government, which is basically Putin, Shoigu, and Gerasimov, and while Lukashenko was like what facilitating the negotiations. So I don't think there will be any changes in the Ministry of Defense, because the Peskov said that there were no discussions about changes in the Ministry of Defense, and I don't think there will be any like any trials or anything. Like Wagner troops and Prigozhin is basically free now. Like they have been pardoned for their like this crime, because this was agreed in negotiations, as Peskov said. I think he also said a few other more things. But basically, I don't have like very big theory. I think it is what we saw in the news. That is that they basically came in. Prigozhin was angry because of like what the MOD leadership not doing much to uh, much for the war in Ukraine, especially like with the ammo issue. So Prigozhin came in and was like, "It's enough. it's enough. We need to fix this. If you don't agree, we will start a war." He was like this. So I think that's what happened. The negotiations went down, and they finally agreed to like fix all their disagreements. Yeah, that's uh, okay.
Well,
Please.
I'm in the camp that doesn't buy that it's sincere at all. I think all of Wagar's points are right, and I think I just to throw in a couple more things I think everyone's missed so far. One is that Prigozhin has been positioned now as a kind of controlled opposition to Putin. He may have got some Western money. He certainly could get some in the future. There are certainly hopeful people who think he's some kind of counter to Putin, so that's nicely set up. The Wagner troops themselves, even if they're not led by him, will form new mercenary companies. They'll be quite welcome in Africa. They won't. Putin has distanced himself from them, so he will no longer be blamed for anything they do in Africa. And I think they're very well positioned to take on AFRICOM there. He has a list of every single reaction that everyone in Russia had to these events. Did they call their friends? Did they express approval, disapproval? He knows now who his friends and enemies are very clearly. And then there's also these counter-terror powers he now has, which are very considerable, and let him deploy troops into the region, including conscripts, and let him impose kind of martial law powers. And another thing that he gets out of this is that to the degree that anyone in Ukraine made a positioning decision or took an unwise assault, they paid for it because the troops they ran into were very well prepared, and which essentially the whole thing was a trap. Come at us, and they did come at them. And I've heard that as many as 2 whole brigades were lost to Ukraine just literally today. So that should round out the list of things that Putin gets as a benefit. To me, if you're familiar with North American fake TV wrestling, this is what's called a heel turn, where somebody shows up and suddenly becomes a bad guy when they were a good guy, and then there's some kind of tussle, and then some manager shows up and negotiates a new deal for them to take them away from the person they're fighting with, which is Lukashenko's role here. And that is important. I agree with Wakar. He has to make Lukashenko look like a hero, like a mediator, like a real boss in front of his own people. And who knows what happens with Shoigu and Gerasimov, but whatever it is, it's whatever Putin wants, because he now has the excuse to do whatever he wants. So I think we have enough things that Putin gains from the staged coup to just say it's staged and not believe anything more of it.